And today is July 18th, 2018. Get ready for the Emerging CE broadcast system, the Forbidden History series, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. Hope you tell your friends about the broadcast. Please note that the following views and the opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, YouTube.com, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society, and nothing here is ever to be construed as medical nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time 7 days a week right here on the realpublicradio.net. Because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here, coming your way, twice a day now, 7 days a week on the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. Stand by for the broadcast. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Central Ohio and Free America Radio Network in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares. It's the history of the church and the original gospel on the Forbidden History series, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning or good evening wherever you are around the world. I'm your host, Desert Owl. Glad to have you tuning in, and hope you're telling your friends about the broadcast. Nice thing is that all these programs are recorded and get out there to the world. And there was an interesting interview you might want to pick up on from last night. Okay, that was the Forbidden History series number 17, and I was able to interview Jeffrey Magaha. Okay, and he has captured some profound images on his search up in the sky as a sky watcher, and he's actually has been sky watching all of his life, so he was very qualified. And good morning, Jedi. Good to have you. Thank you. So that interview is one where we just discussed all the possibilities of what we're looking up at in the sky, and so you may want to check it out. Okay. And so the one who doesn't want to know is the slave who doesn't want to be free. I've noticed in life that people don't want to work and have to dig the dirt to find the truth about what life is all about. And another quote I wrote is, the best way to identify the truth is to identify the lies. And so that's a start, because we first have to know that we're being lied to by the beast system that runs our world. That's what it said in Revelations, that the beast system has deceived the entire world. Well, that's quite a deception. Okay, and so to unravel that mystery is part of the growth process, because we assume when we come into the world that nobody would be lying to us, but then when you grow up, you find out, well, looks like everybody's lying, or else they don't know what they're talking about, one or the other. And so it's a process, and then we have to unravel that mystery. Okay, so my voice is a little hoarse from last night, so I'm gonna try to keep this one short today and stick mainly with the reading, because I want to continue this process, and then if I have room at the end, I'll do a word that kills on the piracy of words, or maybe symbols. Okay, but right now I'm in the history of the church, and we're in section 11 now, and it is the evidence regarding John the Baptist and Christ. Just get a little more light here. And by the way, if anybody out there wants to call in, you're always welcome to do that during the program, after the program. Love to hear from you. The phone number here is 608-566-7295. That's 608-566-7295. And the Skype name is Free America Radio, all one word, Free America Radio. It still says in Kingsland, Georgia, though I'm in Ohio. Alrighty, so love to hear from you. And so the evidence regarding John the Baptist and the Mashiach, Christ. Not long after John the Baptist was beheaded by the younger Herod, as we learn from the inspired gospel narrative, confirmation comes from Josephus, who mentions Herodias by name and tells how she was his brother's wife, Herod, and Herod married her, discarding his existing lawful wife, daughter of King Aretas of Petrea, and separating Herodias from her husband, who was still alive. For her sake, too, he put John to death and was involved in war with Aretas, whose daughter he had slighted. The war ended, as Josephus records, with a pitched battle in which Herod's army was totally destroyed, the direct result of his outrageous treatment of John. The same writer acknowledges that John was a man of unimpeachable virtue and a Baptist, confirming the description of him contained in the gospel narrative. He also records the fact that Herod was deprived of his throne on account of the same woman with whom he was driven into exile and condemned to live in Vienna, a city of Gaul. The story will be found in Antiquities, Book 18, from which I quote verbatim what he has to say about John. Some of the Judeans followed that Herod's army had been destroyed by Yavohe, Allah, as a rich, deserved punishment for his treatment of John, who was called the Baptist. For Herod killed him, a good man who urged the Judeans to train themselves up in virtue, to be just to each other and pious towards the great Elohim, and to come together for baptism. On one condition only would their baptism be acceptable to him: if it was undergone not to escape the penalties of the darkness, but to purify their body, since the soul had been already purged by the perfection of light. When crowds assembled, very excited on hearing his words, Herod was afraid that his extraordinary hold over the people would lead to some revolt, as they seemed prepared to do anything at his suggestion. So he thought it much better to forestall any revolutionary movement prompted by Yochanan, John, by putting him out of the way, rather than wait for an outbreak to occur and reproach himself when it was too late. Because Herod's suspicion, John was sent in chains to Macarius, the fortress mentioned above, and there executed. And that seems to me to be the same Masada, actually. After giving his account of Yochanan in the same part of his work, he goes on to speak as follows of the Savior. At this time appeared a very gifted man, if indeed it is right to call him a man. For he was a worker of miracles, a teacher of such men as listened with pleasure to the truth, and he won over many of the Judeans and many of the commoners as well. This was Mashiach. And when, at the instigation of our leading men, he had been condemned to the cross by Pilate, actually, Pilate washed his hands of it. That's part of the enigma of the story. Those who had loved him at first did not cease to do so, for on the third day he appeared to them alive again and inspired the navigators, that's prophet, having foretold this and countless other wonderful things about him. Even now the group of people called Christians after him has not died out. When a historian sprung from the Hebrews themselves has furnished in his own writings an almost contemporary record of John the Baptist and our Savior as well, what excuse is there left for not condemning the shameless dishonesty of those who forged the memoranda, blackening them both. And there we will leave the matter. And so tomorrow we'll be on the Savior's disciples. And this is Eusebius, the history of the church. Okay? And now we're in the original gospel of Jesus the Christ, misnomered as the Aquarian Gospel. And it is the greatest read on the planet. And if I could only keep one book of all my scriptures, this would be the one. And people have to investigate things on their own. And by the way, a copy of this, a free download, is available on my old radio network. Go to therealpublicradio.net, therealpublicradio.net, and then let's see. Then there's a /original_gospel.html. So it's therealpublicradio.net /original_gospel.html. Okay? And so you can download that PDF, or if you want to get the book from Amazon, right there, ladies and gentlemen, you've got click on the book cover and it will take you right over to Amazon to the 1919 reprint version. So we're picking up in chapter 11, and Mary and Elizabeth and Yosef are there with Yochanan, John, and Yeshua, Jesus, and they're still being taught there in Zoan, in Mitzrayim, in the Delta, also known as Egypt. Chapter 11. Again, Elihu plowed and planted seed, and the eye breathed. The Indian priest became corrupt. Brahm was forgotten in the streets. The rights of men were trampled in the dust. And then a mighty mother star came, a Buddha of enlightenment, who turned away from wealth and all the honors of the world and found silence in the quiet groves and caves, and he was endowed and enlightened. He reached out to the creation about a star message of a higher life, and plowed and planted seed in blood of the earth on how to honor blood of the earth. And for any new listeners, I do read in original thought. I transliterate as I go, and I bring back the original aspects of the words that have been corrupted. Okay, this is part of the mystery, ladies and gentlemen. So you're hearing it, and if you have a question about, what I'm doing about a certain word or anything, call in. Feel free, or you can also text your message. You can just put it right here on the chat line, and I'll look for you. But put the word question in all capital letters, or comment in all capital letters, and then upper and lower case with your statement, okay, or with your question. That way I won't miss it. He had no doctrine. Excuse me. He had no doctrine of the Elohim to seed plant, to teach. He just knew blood of the earth, and so his creed was justice and love and perfection of light. I quote for you a few of many of the helpful words which Buddha spoke. And since this is about Buddha right here, it's a reflection. I just want to mention that everything we've got from an impression about Buddha has been manipulated and corrupted by the Hindu priesthood. Okay, because Buddha basically was, walking the very same walk that Yeshua walked, and he never told anybody to make statues about him. He was preparing the people of India for when the Mashiach would come in his own right. He was a warfaring prince. Just like Yeshua, he gave away all of his wealth, all of it. He was enlightened in his own right. And so his story, is never told correctly. And therefore, we have to realize that the ancients all were interested in philosophy and what others were doing and what was happening in other parts of the world. And they embraced any pure philosophy like Confucius. Obviously, who can say anything about Confucian? When he's using nature and natural reflection, just like Yeshua did. So continuing, hate, these are the words then of Buddha. Hate is a cruel word. If men hate you, do not regard it. And you can turn the hate of men to love and mercy and goodwill. And mercy is as large as all of the entire universe. And there is good enough and light for everyone. With light, destroy the darkness. With generous deeds and action, make avarice ashamed. With truth, make straight the crooked lines that the error draws. For error is but truth distorted, gone astray. And pain will follow him who speaks or acts with blind thoughts, as does the wheel rolling over the foot of him who draws the cart. He is a greater blood of the earth who conquers self than he who kills 1,000 men in war. He is a noble man who is himself what he follows that other men should be. Return to him who does you wrong and your purest love, and he will cease from doing wrong. For love will purify the heart of him who is beloved as truly as it purifies the heart of him who loves. The words of Buddha are recorded in the Indian sacred books. So attend to them, for they are a part of the instructions of the only true anointed, pure great breath. The land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, is a land of secret things. The mysteries of the ages lie lock-bound in our temples and our shrines. The mother stars of all time and climates come here to learn. And when your sons have grown to manhood, they will finish all their studies in the schools of the Mitzrayim. And these schools, these Egyptian schools he's referring to, are Hebrew, run by the Hebrew class. Okay, they lived in all the Mediterranean world. They were spread out. And but I have said enough here. Tomorrow at the rising of the sun, we will meet again. Chapter 12. Now in the morning, the sun arose, a mother star, arose the masters and their pupils, and all were in the sacred grove. Shalome was the first to speak and breathe. You must see and read it for yourself. The sun up in the sky, it reveals the power of the great Elohim, who speaks to us through the sun, moon, and stars, through the mountain, hills, and valleys, through flowers and plants and trees. The great Elohim sings for us through the birds, the harpsichord, the earthly voice. The eye speaks to us through the wind and rain and thunder and the lightning strike. Why should we not bow down and pay homage at his feet? The great Elohim, and that Elohim is the perfected abbreviation that we regard as Elohim. Elohim is an abbreviated corruption, and it's Elohim, and it means all live through the true anointing of life. And so the great Elohim sings for us through the bird, the harpsichord, the earthly voice, and the eye sparks to us through the wind and the rain and the thunder and the lightning. Why should we not bow down and pay homage at his feet? The great Elohim speaks to hearts that are set apart, and hearts may speak to him. And this is the creation of light. It is not the creation of light to shout or prayer. Creation of light is prayer, to shout at the great Elohim, or to stand or sit or to kneel and tell him all about the blindness of the men of the earth. It is not creation of light to tell the only true anointed pure great breath of the one how great he is, how perfect he is, or how strong and how compassionate. The great Elohim is not a blood of the earth to be bought up by the praise of blood of the earth. Creation of light is the ardent wish that every way of life be light, and every act be crowned with perfection, that every living thing be prospered by our ministry. A noble deed, a helpful word is prayer, a fervent and effectual prayer. The fountain of prayer is in the heart by the intent of thought, not words. The heart is carried up to the great Aleph Haim, where it is baruch, endowed and enlightened. So then let us create light. And they created light, but not a shavor. A word was breathed. But in that holy silence, every heart was endowed and enlightened. And then Elihu sparked. The eye breathed to Mare and to Elizabeth. Our burning shavors have been breathed, and you need not to stay here any longer. The call has come. The way is now clear, and you may return to your native land. A mighty work is given you to do, and you will direct the minds that will direct the world. Your sons are set apart to lead blood of the earth up to the perfection of light, in thought, in shavor, the word, and action. To make blood of the earth to know the blindness of closing your eyes, and to lead them from the adoration of the lower self in all elusive things, and make them conscious of the self that lives with Mashiach in great Aleph Haim. In preparation for the work, your sons must walk in many thorny paths. Fierce and great trials of fire and temptation they will meet, like other men. Their loads will not be light, and they will be weary and faint from hunger, and they will know the pangs of hunger and starvation and of thirst, and without cause they will be mocked, imprisoned. To many lands they will go, and at the feet of many mother stars they will sit and learn, for they must learn like other men. But we have said enough. The Baruchim of the 3 and of the 7 who stand before the throne will surely rest upon you forevermore. And this is how the lessons of Elihu and Shalome ended. 3 years they plowed and planted seed within their pupils in the chakra groves. And if their lessons all were written down in a book, it is true throughout all time that it would be a very great book. Of what they breathed, we merely have the sum. Now Mare, Volshaf, and Elizabeth, and Yeshua, and his herald set forth upon their homeward way. And they did not go by the way of Jerusalem, for Archelaus reigned there. And they journeyed by the bitter sea, the Dead Sea, and which was right past the Essenes. And when they reached En-Gedi hills, they rested in the home of Yeshua, a next of relation, and here Elizabeth and Yelkanan stayed. But Volshaf and Mare and their son went up by the Jordan River, and after certain days they reached their home in the community of the Nazareth. Then when we pick it up tomorrow, we'll be in section 4, Daleth, the childhood and education of John the Herald. Okay? And I've got a book review I'm going to do real quick. Jedi, you've got a comment there. You did not know Buddha was... No, Buddha was not with them in Egypt. It was... Elihu was talking about the words of Buddha, how he spoke just like Yeshua from that standpoint, and therefore these people in this on the Silk Road, on this ancient crossroad, collected the writings from all different parts of the world, and they wanted to hear their stories, So this is how it all began. Okay, so. Okay, real quick, I just want to share with you a lost writing that actually comes out of Tibet. It's called The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ by Nicholas Notovich. Okay, and so Nicholas Notovich, author of The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ, was a Russian aristocrat, Cossack officer, spy, and journalist known for his contention that during the years of Jesus Christ's life missing from the Bible, he followed traveling merchants abroad into India and the Hemis monastery in Ladakh, Nepal, where he studied Buddhism. While recovering from a broken leg at the monastery of Hemis, Notovich discovered the text to the life of Isa and realized that it recounted the lost years of Yeshua. The descriptions of the Indian life in this book are illuminating and realistic. Regarding the descriptions of Yeshua's life in India, similar materials exist in the Gospel of Thomas, which was discovered in Nag Hammadi, as well as in Greek writings. Nicholas Notovich traveled extensively throughout India, Afghanistan, and Tibet during the 1890s. His journeying took him through a variety of remote places, such as the passes of Bolan across the Punjab, and eventually into the beautiful and historic valley of Kashmir of the Himalayas. On one such voyage, while he was visiting Leh, the main city of Ladakh, Notovich broke his leg in an accident. While convalescing at the Hemis convent, Notovich heard that there were ancient writings chronicling the life of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, where he as he existed. Subsequently, he traced and studied a Tibetan rendition of these writings and copied down in his journal in excess of 200 verses from the curious document referred to as the life of Saint Issa. Notovich also translated some Tibetan volumes from which he later wrote The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. So this is the story, and also the short gospel here. This was what I determined was like an international gospel of Yeshua, because it was on the Silk Road, and so they made a short version of what happened to Yeshua in Jerusalem, and the great tragedy that occurred there of his execution. But of course, it was a victory of light, because he came back from death, and so this is the version that went on the Silk Road and ended up in Tibet. The only thing is that I can show in here, and I'm going to read it, one day real soon. I note how they corrupt the writings. They do switch outs, and then they destroy the originals, and that's basically what has occurred with this one. Because bottom line is, when the Pharisees were the ones guilty of the execution of Yeshua, nonetheless, they switch it out in a way to make Pilate look guilty. When Pilate, washed hands and would not, and he said, "You take them, you take them." So Pilate, throughout history, has gotten the bad rap, and the priesthood was covering their tracks. They didn't want the rest of the world to know that they had killed the Mashiach, So anyway, it's possible to see the trickery of the priesthood, and how they try to alter our sacred writings and our documents. And so I highly suggest getting the book. I've read it several times already, and it's a profound story. And also, these are our sacred scriptures, even if they've been mishandled by other men for wanting to hide a little bit of the light. Okay, because the light comes back. The light can come back through Yeshua. All right, and so that's all I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to nurse my throat and see if I can finally get into doing my 2-a-days with without losing my voice. So I'm trying to pace myself and do shorter presentations here, and so especially in the morning when I'm just getting started, and and you know how hard it is when you wake up sometimes to talk. So with that, I just want to thank you all for tuning in, and just want to remind you that don't forget, if you want to know the future, then just look for the Forbidden History. I'm Desert Owl, thanking you for tuning in. We'll be back on later this evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, with the Forbidden History series, what they didn't want you to know. But we tell right here. Be safe out there. We'll see you.